Clerk Sparks, are we ready to go? We are. Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to Public Works and Safety Standing Committee for Monday, November 27. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely as well as on site. All participants joining remotely should please mute phones and devices when you're not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, make sure you announce yourself by name and title when you speak so that the public knows who's speaking and we have an accurate record. This is critical given the number of remote participants, and it's also guidance from the Kansas Attorney General's office. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting. And those comments are included in the record of our meeting. The public can also indicate their intent to provide public comment by contacting our clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday prior to meetings. The public also has an opportunity to provide comments either by telephone, Zoom, or here in person in the 5th floor conference room tonight, the night of the meeting. And with that, I will call our meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Roll call. Groneman.
Here.
Kane. Markley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Ramirez. Bynum.
Here. We don't have any revisions on our agenda tonight, and we don't have any minutes for approval. So we do have a first item of a Violence Against Women Act fiscal year 2024 grant. And this is an approval of a resolution authorizing acceptance of the grant from the Kansas Governor's Office in the amount of $110,604. Matching funds will allow staff to fill in blanks here. We have Wendy Medina with the police department, and I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Wendy Medina. I'm the program supervisor for victim services at the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. And with me is Captain Katie Yarslick, and we are here to request approval to apply for the Violence Against Women's Act grant. In early 2021, the Kansas Governor's Advisory Council on Domestic and Sexual Violence Response, the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, and Friends of Yates, our local domestic violence agency, came together to enhance the response to domestic violence cases in the city of Kansas City, Kansas, via a grant received by the Governor's Grants Office called Improving Criminal Justice Response, ICJR. The purpose was to develop a lethality assessment program in response to domestic violence. The first goal was to establish a model community in Kansas using best practices in ensuring victim safety and offender accountability, and create efforts to reduce domestic violence related homicides through strengthened and revitalized coordinated community responses and multidisciplinary teams. This project would go on to inform future frameworks and toolkits to implement lethality assessments and multidisciplinary teams in other Kansas jurisdictions. The goal was to complete this pilot, then transition to a permanent vision for our community. KCKPD had the opportunity to spearhead this initiative. The number of domestic violence related homicides in our city mobilized us to continue to demand that we continues to demand that we take action in response. We've had 6 intimate partner related homicides since 2021. Via this pilot, we created a lethality assessment program for our area. Lethality assessments aim to assess the risk for lethality, so robust intervention can take place. It provides the officers with a tool to help them understand the context of domestic violence as a pattern of series of abusive events, rather than an isolated call for service. For this project, we created the KCK project team, comprised of representatives from stakeholder agencies in Kansas City and Wyandotte County's criminal justice system, the local domestic violence program, and community-based and culturally specific area partners. I'm thankful and proud of the engagement that took place and brought all these professionals from different disciplines together to end domestic violence, and we wish to keep the momentum now that we have everyone at the table. The role of the KCK project team is to oversee the implementation of this lethality assessment program and create a high-risk team. We created the high-risk team, and the purpose was to review the specific cases forwarded from the lethality assessments, to collaborate, share information, mobilize, and support the domestic violence victims from each person's area of expertise. We hired Ramat Abanashe, our program coordinator, and through October, officers have conducted 463 lethality assessments. 387 of those victims screened at high or elevated risk, and they were referred to the domestic violence agency immediately. The program coordinator has provided direct victim services to 430 victims. So the ICJR project was set to end in September, and then we received an extension until December 31st, 2023. A couple months ago, I came before you to apply for that 3-month period that thankfully ICGR was extended for, and we were able to keep that program running. However, since the extension ends December 31st, we are here again. So we have made great strides in enhancing services to domestic violence victims with our lethality assessment project and the dedicated people that came to the table for it.
Through this tool, we've been able to provide resources to the officers in the field. So when they're responding to domestic calls, they're able to immediately provide resources to the victims, as well as a better tracking of repeat offenses in intimate partners within our community. Not only has this improved the officer's response, but I think it's also boosted their confidence in making a positive change in the community. The tool has also provided the ability to follow up and track that. So then we can continue to provide these services to our community members who are having violence or have had violence, to include the children in these units.
That's why we are requesting approval to submit this application to the Kansas Governor's Grants Office, the Stop VAWA grant, to fund the fiscal period of January through December 2024. I'm asking for $110,604. The federal portion VAWA does require 25% match. Therefore, I am reporting a portion of 2 KCKPD captains' salary assess match. These 2 captains participate in the high-risk team, the project team, and the coordinated community response team. And one of them, Captain Yarslik, has been heavily involved in the training and implementation of lethality assessments in the project. So easily, the sum of 10% of Captain Yarslik and 15% of Captain Smith's salaries more than satisfies the match requirement. I'm not asking for any additional funding from the UG than what already exists. The VAWA dollars will cover the salary and fringe benefits of our lethality assessment coordinator without VAWA funding unless the UG is willing to absorb the costs. This valuable position will cease to exist. The program coordinator oversees all referrals of high-risk cases identified in the lethality assessment the officers are completing with victims in the field to the high-risk team. They guide and support the coordination, management, and utilization of the lethality assessments in the field each time there's a domestic violence call. The program coordinator also provides data control and tracking in accordance with grant reporting requirements, and most importantly, they provide support to our responding police officers and direct victim services to the victims who score high or elevated on the scale. They provide help with orders of protection, crime victims compensation, safety planning, and emergency shelter. VAWA dollars will also cover office supplies and training for the coordinator, emergency hotel and transportation to safety for victims, as well as other crisis intervention supplies for victims, such as meals, clothing, diapers, replacement cell phone, clothing, and transportation. This program has been historical for our community, and I am very proud to be in leadership as our county implements these innovative strategies to address intimate partner violence and put an end to domestic violence-related homicides.
Thank you very much for the presentation and information to both of you. And I just want to say a thank you to Ms. Medina and it's Captain, right?
Yes.
For your leadership in the program, and to frankly, all of your law enforcement partners and other community partners that are working on this. I know the grant is a critical component of the work. I just want you to know that we sincerely appreciate the passion you bring to doing the work, because it's not a job that I think everyone wants. It takes a special person to be able to work in this arena and try to make an impact in this way. Are there questions from Commissioner?
Second Johnson.
Motion and a second. Before we do that, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on the item? Clerk Sparks, is there anyone online? With their hand up? No hands are raised. Anyone from the public that's present here in the room wish to speak on? We have a motion and this, yes, sir.
I have two things to address on this. First thing is that there's a discrepancy in the resolution itself for the amount that's being asked for. It differs from that. So if the amount that is being sought is $110,604, we would need to amend the language in this and pass it for that, because I believe it's at 109,000 and change. And the second part of this is I believe that PD was seeking to have this fast tracked through so that they can get this application in. So if this could be passed on a fast track, that'd be preferable.
Okay, so the first question is, within our packet, the resolution identifies $109,056.12. So do we need to amend that amount to the amount that you stated? I'm asking, before we amend it, do we need to?
Sure. I'm trying to look at my notes here because there was a short difference, and it was due to the health insurance costs, because at the time that we created this initial budget, it was before we knew health costs. So then we ended up editing it to do the accurate health costs.
Able to give us the.
Yes, it's the 109.
Oh, 109.
Yeah.
056 and 12 cents. Is that the correct amount?
That is correct.
Okay, we have an amended motion to the fast track to Thursday night.
And then is it in the thing you read as well?
Yeah, it was my script. It was wrong.
Okay.
Just make sure we're
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
okay. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markle.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum. Motion carries.
Next, we have Gunnar Hand, Director of Urban Planning and Design. We have a FEMA floodplain community rating system. Report that we need to hear from you about so that we can move this forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Before you tonight is a request to review and approve the repetitive loss area analysis. The Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas voluntarily participates in the FEMA floodplain program called the Community Rating System. Basically, you score and accrue a certain amount of points from certain efforts, engagement, specific mitigation of floodplain hazards and the like, to somewhat counterintuitive, reduce your score. And with each reduction of score, you get a benefit to the premiums of all flood insurers in the UG. Just this past fall, we were upgraded from a 7 to a 6. We are in the process of pursuing going from a 6 to a 5. There are only 2 other communities that are at that high of a level in our region. And so we're excited about that effort. I do have our consultant who's been working with us on the call, who's going to give you a little bit more information about the repetitive loss analysis and how it fits in. But basically, we're right at the point where every 5 years, we have to go back to FEMA and confirm our community rating systems approach. One of those things that we have to do that scores us points that got us to CRS 6, excuse me, is this repetitive loss analysis. So adopting this tonight is critical to maintaining our CRS 6 status that we just earned, because this report comes with certain points. So with that, if we could bring Ms. Mitchell up and she can give a brief presentation, and we are asking that this also be fast-tracked tonight.
Ms. Mitchell, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Melissa Mitchell. I am a floodplain management analyst with Tetra Tech, and we are providing support consulting services to the UG's floodplain management program and UG's continued participation in FEMA's community rating system program. As Gunnar shared, the unified government participates in FEMA's CRS program, and participation in this program demonstrates a higher level of support, capacity, and regulations that the UG has in place to really support a more resilient community with higher standards for development, higher requirements in regards to stormwater, hazard mitigation plan, building codes, GIS support. Many things fall in line here. What that represents currently is the UG is receiving a 20% discount to flood insurance policies under the National Flood Insurance Program. Currently, there are 112 policies within the unified government corporate limits, and that's going to be for Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. The city of Bonner Springs is a CRS participating community, and they have a separate discount for their participation in the program. And the National Flood Insurance Program is available to all. So you do not have to be mapped within a special flood hazard area to apply for a flood insurance policy. Homeowners insurance does not cover flood insurance. So that's why it's very important for the UG to continue their participation and desired growth to expand their discount to their citizens. Participation in FEMA CRS program is the only eligible discount for your policy holders. What that represents right now is you have 29 policy holders in your regulatory floodplain that have an annual savings of $328. And you have 83 policy holders that have an annual savings of $202. So the UG's hard work is really represented in what's returned to your citizens that carry national flood insurance coverage. In 2018, the Unified Government Planning Department completed a CRS repetitive loss area analysis. And this is an extension of a hazard mitigation plan or a local floodplain management plan, but is a detailed mitigation plan that is focused on properties within the unified government that have 2 or more flood insurance claims. Now, this data is only specific to the repetitive loss properties for National Flood Insurance Program insurance holders. It does not represent private flood insurance that is very well could be within your community as well. What this identified is there are 12 specific areas that have a flooding source that is contributing to those policy holders having 2 or more flood insurance claims. The focus is 2 or more flood insurance claims. You do have a larger list for one-time claims, but the CRS program is based off of 2 or more. And specifically, a lot of those repetitive loss areas are along your Turkey Creek project. The Turkey Creek completed a flood control project, and the next phase is to do a FEMA letter of map revision that is scheduled, I believe, in 2024, and may result in some of these repetitive loss properties being removed from this list. So that will be very exciting to see come forward in 2024. Also, the KC Levee project will be a phenomenal project once completed that will result in a higher level of levee protection that is anticipated to change the number of repetitive loss properties within the unified government's corporate boundaries as well. The CRS program, much like many FEMA requirements, requires an update every 5 years. And exactly what we have for you presented today is an update of those flood action items. So the repetitive loss areas, the 12 repetitive loss areas, a combination of working efforts between building inspections, the planning department, and public works have provided updates to those action items, really identifying the progress of the Turkey Creek Flood Control Project and the KC Levee Project. There are some areas within the community that are prone to localized flooding. The UG has a continued funded capital improvement plan that has potential opportunities for stormwater mitigation projects as well. So in conclusion, to follow the FEMA CRS criteria, we are bringing the updated repetitive loss, the 2018 repetitive loss area analysis to you for consideration of readoption so that it meets the continued criteria for your CRS discount.
Thank you.
Is that it, Gunnar?
Yes, that's the conclusion of our comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a quick question. It's a voluntary participation. However, go ahead. We didn't participate, then those who were purchasing the insurance would not qualify for the discount.
That's correct.
And it's approximately, she mentioned 30 some odd and 80 some odd. Is that the number of holders?
Oh, the number of actual holders?
Yes.
Yes,
Go-
Gunnar, I can speak to this.
Please.
So the unified government voluntarily joined FEMA's community rating system program in 2012. So it has been maintained for a while with the UG, and they have the opportunity to continue to grow their discount by creditable activity, so higher standards. So as of right now, best available data we have from FEMA, there are 112 flood insurance policies under the National Flood Insurance Program. We do not have access to data related to policy holders through other insurance avenues. I'm sure you have them, but I don't have access to that data. And there's Privacy Protection Acts in place. So we can only speak on the data provided by FEMA.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kane?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if we do this, there's a chance we would go up to a 5. Is that what you said?
If we, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design, if we don't pass this one, we'll actually slide back into CRS 7. So this puts us firmly in CRS 6, and then we're going to spend the next year working towards CRS 5, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Ms. Mitchell is also helping us better coordinate our floodplain management with our stormwater management and create therefore greater efficiencies and compliance across the board.
This also helps our constituents with their insurance and stuff like that.
That's correct. So at CRS 7, you got a 15% reduction. CRS 6 got us up to 20. CRS 5 will get us even deeper into that
For
discount.
approval and fast track for Thursday.
Johnson second.
Thank you very much. And before we vote on that motion, is there anyone online that would like to speak to the item?
No hands are raised.
Is there anyone here in person that would like to speak to this item? Gunnar, thank you very much to you and your staff for all the work that I know. I read the report, so I know how extensive someone did a lot of work. So thank you. You and the team for that. And with that, I will ask for a roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman. Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that is fast track to Thursday, correct? Thank you very much. The next item we have is a resolution for the Cop Point Modernization Project. This is a resolution that authorizes Public Works to accept a grant in the amount of 17.8 million from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We have Jeff Miles and Jeff Fisher and Trenton Vogelsong coming forward. I would like to hear about the $17.8 million grant. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Jeff Miles, Director of Water Pollution Control. First thing I wanted to start off with talking about this really historic day of a $17.8 million grant is really give kudos to gentlemen sent to the right of me, Trenton and the team, along with WPC and all of our partners that helped apply for this, find this, and really turn over every rock. I'm going to give you a couple other examples in addition to this grant. But without all them and their due diligence, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So I'm here to talk about the $17.8 million grant. We're asking for approval tonight to move to full commission for full approval. A couple just details to this. This is not only for the modernization as far as the money going towards that, but in addition, as you guys are aware, we did get a $2 million earmark from Sharice David's office, as well as at the end of this project, a $3 million to $26 million tax credit, which we're still working through the details of that, but that would be towards the end of the project. We did here recently, here in this last week, just found another opportunity for additional revenue, additional funds, another grant opportunity, and we've already started that process to apply for that as well. I don't have the details as the amount, but it should be substantial as well. So we'll come back to you guys when it's that point. So tonight, we're looking for approval to move to full commission.
all that you laid out for us were to come to fruition, we would be potentially cutting the cost of this major upgrade.
I have to do the math of quote exactly half, but pretty darn close. Yeah. Yep. And thank you for Commissioner actually bringing that up. I did want to include one other point. In addition, we're looking in-house as well. So you guys remember the project included a contaminated hill that we needed removal part of this process. We did put our heads together because we're looking at every opportunity to save money. And we met with our teams along the street department, water pollution control and other departments. And we're looking at doing that part of the project in-house versus paying to do that out of house. Wintertime, we do have staff that can be repurposed for other responsibilities. And that's another opportunity we're going to take to save money.
How long have we been working on this?
Trenton, how long? Very beginning.
I think it really started in I believe we went through the RFQ process in 18, maybe 19. I think it was 18.
And at that time, we didn't have any grants. We didn't have anything, correct?
Right.
Correct.
So that we've got, we say it was $17.8 million. Plus Sharice has got some more money, plus we're anticipating getting some other money.
Yes, sir.
That ends up about what, 45 million?
Yeah.
Motion to approve, Johnson.
A second.
And I apologize. There's been a fast track.
So move, Johnson.
Thank you.
A second.
Before we call roll, item, first of all, thank you to the Public Works team. All the work that has gone into this and everything you do every day. Madam Clerk, are there any hands raised online for public comment?
No hands are raised.
Is there anyone in person tonight that would like to speak on the item? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. You have 3 minutes and you can state your name and city for the record.
Carolyn Wyatt, Kansas.
Microphone on.
Carolyn Wyatt, Kansas City, Kansas. 17 million to 2 million earmarked. That's a lot of money. And there should be more accountability for the money and public works. We have some streets like Parallel. If you live around here and you drive out Parallel Parkway, starting at probably 9th Street, whatever. Or if you go down Minnesota, you got to figure out where you're going to drive it so you don't hit all the bumps. And then if you take I-70 leaving here down 5th Street, you got to figure out where you're going to drive there because you're going to hit all these bumps. So the streets in bad condition. They've done some side streets, but the main streets are people drive on. It's bad. So whoever's over that department in Public Works, is at the point, so you're getting all this money. And if there's no accountability on what you're using it for, and also how much is left, where it's going, somebody need to be responsible for that. Because like I say, the streets are bad. And I think if you're in Public Works, maybe you don't live around here. And if you don't live around here, you're not driving these streets and you're really not concerned. We live around here, we drive this every day. And this is why I'm bringing it to you, because you're trying to do something, but you're missing the real point of the community. And so I'm speaking out for the community because I live here and I drive these streets every day and I have to hit these bumps. And I think it's unnecessary if somebody's over their department. They got all this money already that's probably not accounted for. And there's other money coming. If it's not accounted for, it may go for some things that are not necessary. So if they get the money, it need to be accounted for, what it's spent for, what's left over. First, you need to take care of the streets around here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wyatt. Is there anyone else present that would like to speak to the item? Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval plus fast track. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Groneman,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Johnson, Bynum,
Aye.
motion carries.
Very much. Thank you, gentlemen. The next item is a presentation from Jeff Fisher and I believe Sarah Schaefer. Is that right, Jeff? Regarding a community-based partnership with Corbius Infrastructure Services, and I will hand it to Sarah Schaefer to bring the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, committee, for the opportunity to introduce you to Corvius Infrastructure Solutions. So a little bit of background. In 2019, the Stormwater Capital Improvement Program began looking into innovative funding opportunities in order to successfully implement projects to address our regulatory and our stormwater deficiency within our community. In 2020, we applied for the WIFIA innovative funding for infrastructure, water infrastructure through the EPA. And part of that application included an innovative approach. The innovative approach was the community-based partnership aspect of an infrastructure program. So tonight we have the opportunity to introduce you to Greg and Michael, who are going to give you a presentation on the community-based programming opportunity that we have within this, within the multiple construction projects that we have that are under our WIFIA program.
Good evening, Greg Canito with Corbius Infrastructure Solutions. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update and a brief to the committee on a community-based partnership and what that entails. It all starts with a public vision. This is the vision owned by Unified Government Wyandotte County. Again, this is based on a regulatory requirement on a consent decree to reduce the overflow and separate the combined sewer and to move into a watershed-based approach for managing stormwater pollution across the service area. With a community-based partnership, this is a program that was pioneered first by the EPA through collaboration in early around 2012, 2014 era. And it was developed to turn regulatory requirements not just to be a stick, but to also include carrots for the community to take advantage of the infrastructure investments that are happening and how to integrate workforce development, integrate local disadvantaged business capacity building into the requirements so that it wasn't just putting pipes in the ground, but it was also about uplifting the community. You want to go to the time?
So our timeline that we have to date, so in July of 2022, we issued the RFP for the CBP. In August, the proposed submissions came in and then we awarded in March. So currently we went through a transition planning exercise where our team came in and met with a large group of our departments as well as our leadership. And we're coming up on our master services agreement. And so we're in that capacity to bring you what that master service agreement components would be. And that would include everything from going through our metrics of how those components go into our annual plan, how those components also go into each project, and then how those are delivered into what we would see here on the ground. So what we're working on now is finalizing those in order to begin our work starting in January, and then that would go through 2030, which is to include maintenance of those particular projects.
So we are very excited to be selected. We have done community-based partnerships with numerous other communities, 5 in particular, some which are utility districts and some which are municipal services or just municipalities and their public works departments across the country, Maryland, Pennsylvania, California, Wisconsin, state of Washington. And what's unique about these programs is while they're all driven by a regulatory requirement, Each of these programs have been tailored to meet the community objectives and needs specific for that community to integrate their version of community uplift and community benefits. So in working with your team here, really understanding what is the vision here for this infrastructure requirement, turning a regulatory mandate into an opportunity. It really premises off the idea of that a revitalization, a requirement to revitalize physical infrastructure where you're getting a significant amount of funding from the government is a great opportunity to increase the purchasing power locally, to use those dollars so that they are spent and they are obtained locally through local capacity, local contractors, disadvantaged contractors, and generate greater local purchasing power, which can create to greater regeneration and reclamation in the local economy. So putting those dollars into the economy and making sure those kind of dollars stay within the economy and can be recycled into the economy to buy gas, buy hot dogs, reinvest into home ownership, et cetera, is the goals and objectives that we've worked with the Public Works and with Sarah and her team to articulate a plan for that investment. That means that what we do is we put a specific, every project that goes through, while we take on the responsibility or complement the responsibility for the delivery of the project work, we do it in a way where we take on performance metrics around the utilization of who gets contracted for that work and of the delivery of that work. And what that does is it provides the government greater surety of the delivery of that work on time and on the budget that's committed to. But what it also does is it adds that a benchmark above beyond just time and dollars, but also into who builds it, not just what gets built. And that's the difference that we get very excited about with the community-based partnership of bringing two communities that want to take off this different approach. It is a complement to add additional resources that are not just traditional bid out and build resources, but capacity development and community engagement resources with actual metrics tied behind it. So that there's transparency to the community so that they can know what actual metrics were achieved through the delivery of those projects. By doing that, we build local capacity. We do that through unique objectives of reducing barriers to entry. One of the biggest challenges with infrastructure projects is a lot of money comes very quickly to a community and the community doesn't have enough opportunity, especially local firms, to overcome reduced or barriers to entry in contracting, bonding, et cetera. And what we do is we work to develop, based on your community's needs, ability to reduce those barriers so that smaller firms can participate in the competitive bid process and have greater opportunities of winning more work. In addition to that, with regulatory requirements for separation, especially with land management, there is an opportunity here with the land bank to reclaim properties that are in some ways have flooding issues or have water management issues that can now be brought back online and back out of the land bank and into the economy, and to articulate specific architect-specific ways in which those properties can come back into the community, contributing as a built infrastructure in the community, brick and mortar. And so that's the three-step process that we have worked on with our contract to organize the consent decree projects that are already required and being worked on with the Public Works and the EPA and state agencies, but to turn those into scopes that can then be tangible, measured investments into the community with tangible results. Again, this approach is an outcome-based delivery. It takes an approach of not looking at each individual project separately, but also about aggregating them together from a metrics and an investment aspect, building contractor capacity, reducing barriers, building workforce development, really making it achievable and measurable for local participation, which drives accountability so that everybody knows what the return on those infrastructure dollars are, not just from a regulatory or an infrastructure return, but also from a community return. Where are we today? As Sarah outlined, we're in the program mobilization, the update of where we've worked out the legal structure and the requirements and the goals and objectives so that we can move into program executions that are already operating infrastructure implementation. How is the program governed? So this is not a just, you put out a metrics and then you come back 7 years later. This is an annual assessment where there is an annual plan that is developed based on the projects that are phased for that stage. And there is a written narrative and basically an infrastructure delivery plan that incorporates how these objectives are going to be achieved and the projects that are going to be worked on. And that helps foster good communication and transparency out in the community to help support the engagement so that the local community can be prepared to bid and to win work on these programs and projects. In addition to that, inside those annual programming, each project is broken down into a budget book, which articulates both the technical and delivery aspects of each project, but also incorporates the local economic improvement and actually outlines the commitment to the metrics for that project of what will be based on the buyout and what the percentage utilization of target class, local business enterprise and disadvantaged business enterprises will be, so that each project can be measured individually as well as aggregated up to an annual plan, as well as aggregated up across the whole entire program. And that foundational piece aspect of breaking it down allows for very good transparency and metrics to show where those dollars are being spent and how the metrics and measurements are coming in for local community benefits. In this program, we've identified 5 key performance indicators that are based on the performance metrics. One is based on land reclamation and rehabilitation of actually tracking specific reclaimed properties into back out of the land bank into the economy based on the infrastructure programs that are being projects that are being laid out or installed. A mentor project program. Michael Burke with me today can give a little bit more information about the mentor project program.
Good evening, everybody. So my role has been with CIS and Corvius on the, sorry about that. Good evening and thank you for having us. I've been working with CIS as a consultant. I have my own firm. I've been working with them since 2016, and I was hired to develop a mentor protege program. Prior to that, I worked on large infrastructure projects, multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects in the Maryland, DC, and Virginia area, and looked at the barriers to why don't we get more small contractors involved, and what are the barriers to small businesses. So we developed a mentor protege program that broke down those barriers. Barriers typically are cash flow, barriers are opportunities, and small businesses don't get the opportunities because the contracts are too large, so they can't bid them. Many times they don't qualify because they don't have good lines of credit, et cetera, et cetera. So we built a mentor protege program that we've now implemented around the country and other markets under the green infrastructure type programs to make sure that the community is involved, to make sure that we identify the small businesses, the minority businesses in your community, determine what their capacity is, and then find projects from our program that are sized appropriately for those small businesses so those small businesses can compete. So the goal here is to develop programs within the confines of the work that's being done to make sure that your community participates in it, that those dollars stay in your community. But the program is not just to develop the firms in the community, it's to develop those firms so, you know, if you teach them to fish, they can feed their families, right? So we want to develop those firms so that they can do this kind of work in other marketplaces as well and bring those dollars back to the community. And we can speak much more about it. It's a pretty comprehensive program. In 6 years, we've had 50 protege firms. Those protege firms, 25 of those firms have done over $40 million of construction on this kind of program.
Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Right there at that point. Can you give us an example of how you would help a smaller business, for example, overcome those kinds of capacity issues like the ones you described, which are that entity is too small, the project is too large, the entity that would like some of the work is too small, they have cash flow issues. Can you help us understand better how you would help a protege overcome some of those kinds of obstacles? I've seen contractors go out of business on large jobs because they bid jobs they couldn't actually complete because they weren't big enough. So just help us a little bit with that.
Yes, I've seen that as well. On those infrastructure projects I talked about, I closed out an $875 million 2,000-room hotel. And 50% of the small contractors at the end of the closeout didn't get their retainage. And they didn't get their retainage because They didn't keep notes. They didn't track their tickets. They didn't do the things that they needed to do in order for them to get paid. And of course, those big contractors, the general contractors, they have this much documentation and the small contractors have this much documentation. Knowing that, we build the program around those kind of barriers. So on our programs, we have a quick pay program so that the contractors are paid within 30 days. And CIS takes the risk on that 30-day payment. They put the money in escrow so that those firms can be paid. If those firms can be paid within 30 days, they can now pay their workers. They can pay the trucking companies. They can pay those people that need to be paid weekly. As long as they know they're getting paid, that becomes like a line of credit for them because they can bank on this project that they're going to get paid. So they know they can, maybe do something different on another project. Some of the other barriers are marketing and business development. Most of the contractors, or a lot of the contractors, they have the contracting skill set, but they don't necessarily have the business building skill set. So a lot of our focus in the Mentor Protege program is not only in construction, but it's in business. How are they marketing? How are they selling? Are they capable of talking to a large general contractor? Do they have that skill set? So we build a bunch of training around those kinds of things to ensure that the small contractors can compete. Bonding. We put up the first, in a lot of our programs, we put up the first $1 million of bonding so that the small businesses can go after the work and not have to create the bond or not have to get the bond. But what that gives them is past performance on the project. So if they get 2 projects with us, they can use that past performance to then go to the surety and say, hey, I have past performance on this project. I've done 2 projects with them. I'm going to bid some other ones. And the surety sees them as capable of getting maybe their first bond. We've had increases in bonding 200 and 300% in the program just by consistency of work. Most small businesses need the work. Green infrastructure programs, the projects are sized well enough so that small businesses can compete. Landscapers can compete. We've had a landscaping program where we've taken 1-person landscape companies. They're now 5-person landscape companies because we taught them how to do this kind of work. And then they were able to bid this work not only on these programs, but on programs outside within their market and even in their residential market. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much. I just thought illustration of that point could be really helpful to the discussion.
Absolutely.
So that goal leads to the local contractor utilization. So the Mentor Protege is a strategic program to help us actually successfully achieve, because a lot of times it is just a challenge because there just isn't, whether there is capacity or not is capacity, there's not known capacity or not capacity that is actively competing in a lot of these programs. So a lot of this is both attracting capacity to compete into these programs, but then also actually mentoring and nurturing the competition so that we can achieve these minimum target utilizations out there. So they come hand in glove with each other, the metrics for 2 and 3, to help us ensure that we can meet these targets. What we have also found is both the capacity building has actually helped us with better pricing overall in all of our programs, because the greater the knowledge that we're able to take with the capacity building, the better the pricing, the better the bidding, and the better the estimates that we do after time of recycling. And the more we do the education and the more competition there is with smaller firms coupled with larger firms and mid-sized firms, actually the better pricing we end up seeing overall as a program, because there's just less unknowns about what they're bidding on, how they're at, what the expectations of the bids are. And also the quick pay with the cash flow also alleviates a price increase that we see a lot of times in unknown infrastructure programs in the government side, where they don't know exactly how long a float that they have to be able to do that. So both on large firms and small firms, you reduce the premium that you pay for float and payments on that.
The other dynamic is, most of your large general contractors are small firms that they work with. So they're comfortable working with those firms, and it's hard for them to bring in new firms. But in our programs, we pass that target class 20% down to those firms, which requires them to use new firms and to learn new companies. And we teach those large firms how to be mentors to those small businesses, and that they can trust that they'll do the work and be able to meet schedule, price, and quality. And those are also the challenges. So the program changes the culture and the dynamic in a typical public works program. And that's what we have to do. And your team has been real gracious about understanding that and working with us to make that happen. So we're looking forward to doing that.
So then KPIs 3 roll into KPIs 4 and 5, which are traditionally must-haves of timely completion and budgeted cost instead of just keeping on budget and timely completion. And what we do is in order to achieve this with the previous KPIs is where we take the public works initiative that is usually a larger design, larger scale, and break those downs into capacities that are achievable from a budget book standpoint for deliverable projects. We look at it more from like a production line construct versus just a big construction implementation, and that allows more participation and more eating the elephant one bite at a time type of approach. Community engagement is very it's not a nice to have, it's a must have in this type of a program. With these types of infrastructure programs, these are in people's front yards, going down the right of way, it's going through people's yards. There's a lot of confusion or distraction in the community about difference between wastewater, stormwater, drinking water, all the different types of utility aspects that are going on. So community engagement, both around the projects of what projects are being done, why they're being done, but also who's doing the work is a really big aspect of people understanding how to plug in. It takes around 6 times to get anybody in any way to understand, 6 repetitive, times. So we take community outreach very seriously. We do a go slow to go fast approach to really get out there and build that because we have the metrics of utilization that we have to achieve. But the community engagement goes driven by us working with all the resources, complementing all the resources that exist in the UG. You already have a great network of NBRs for establishing community champions, for helping promote that knowledge. We drive environmental stewardship, which is already happening, and there's already a lot of messaging and communications that are happening with that. We plug into those same streams. So we leverage a lot of what you have as supply-centric type communications, workforce development initiatives, other communities that are doing communications around this, and we organize and plug into them because what we're driving, as we said before, a demand-centric infrastructure program. So we're driving demand because you have $85 million plus of infrastructure work. That is a economic demand in the marketplace. And you have a lot of supply aspects from a communication, from a workforce, but it's really about matching those two together so that we can help build the supply to meet the demand that you have as a government for the work going out. And so this community engagement is specifically derived to align your existing supply assets into this demand structure of all this infrastructure work and results in a delivery of an asset that is managed and understood by the community as being built also by the community. We have a couple of, I think in this presentation, we gave some examples of some of the previous work. So we have this framework that we broke down to give an idea of how UG unified government looks like compared to other communities that we've worked with. It comes down to some basic fundamentals of a framework. First, what are the drivers? You have a consent decree for your combined sewer overflows. You have a consent decree that's moving you from that into a watershed management with the separation of the combined sewers. Social equity and economic resiliency are your drivers. Those are your key drivers that we use. Project participants. This is not something new. You guys have been working for over a decade with EPA, state organizations, your public utilities, community-based organizations, and private property owners. Those are all the participants that are vested that we have to make sure that we involve and communicate with as we roll this out. The framework, community-based partnership, financing and delivery. So you guys have already gone out and gotten public financing with the WIFU program to match to bring in capital for this. What we provide is as Michael said, where we take risk is on these budget books. We take the risk where we put our money up front and we get paid on delivery. So we look at this as like if you're ordering a bus or ordering a rail car, we're getting paid on the delivery of the asset, but that's why we break it down into smaller budget books. But what that does is that puts some alignment and commitment into skin in the game on the delivery of it around those metrics. And that's where we provide what we call sponsor capital, at-risk capital in that aspect. The funding here, some programs have federal funding, some programs don't have federal fundings that we work with, some are just utility fee based. This has a combination of all with a lot of grants that your public works has been aggressively going after to continue to supplement the existing funding that you have from your federal and state resources. This is regulatory compliance and strategy commitments. And this is, incorporating, not every place incorporates the 7-year maintenance program. We have one community that incorporated 30-year maintenance. We have other communities that incorporate 3 to 5 year, and you guys have chosen a 7-year maintenance program. mentor protege is a prime strategy, incorporating your neighborhood business revitalizations, and then local target class and development. Those are the strategies that we align around your traditional project delivery of these projects and to implement those strategies along with that, just a regular delivery. Some program examples. So one, we have this one first year. I believe the Unified Government Public Works was heavily influenced by the Prince George's County, Maryland CBP3. This was the first one that I personally worked on. I've worked on all of our CBP3s. This is the first one we personally worked on that came out with the EPA in Prince George's County, Maryland. It's heavily regulated by the Chesapeake Bay total maximum daily load pollution reduction requirements. They had a consent decree for compliance for all the development that they had done through the 80s and 90s in Prince George's County. And it also was, it is a traditionally, historically, a low income in comparison to the community, to the surrounding communities of DC, of minority based, not low income, but minority based and a lower income in the community areas. And so it had a very big climate resiliency and economic growth. A lot of Prince George's County is built within the floodplain. So a lot of what's moved, housing was forced into the floodplain areas and they have a significant flooding issues there. Project participants were similar to you as the state and county governments. They took out SRF loans, which are match loans from the federal government. They've sourced of the $350 million to date we've done. They've sourced over $175 million from SRF. The rest of it has been from their utility fees. Again, we did the same performance base with a guarantee max price and schedule and utilization of residents and utilization of target. They have a specific target class utilization that they have in their charter. And to date, we originally started with a 35% utilization target. We are now at a 50% plus. We're in phase 3 of this program. Phase 1 started in 2015. We've gotten it renewed twice since then. And we're up to almost 80%. We're at 79% local small minority business enterprise utilization. We exceed the 51% resident participation, and that is tracked by certified payroll on the resident participation, on the man hours that are worked. And we encompass over 24 municipalities inside that county, and it has done over 6,000 acres of work. So again, a large scale program that started out at $100 million program has now been renewed and grown to what it currently is today in its phase 3 at $350 million because of the success and the growth that it's had in building local capacity and local economic development. That is our most mature program. Chester, Pennsylvania is our smallest program. It's a highly urban. This is just south of Philadelphia Airport along the Delaware River. It is a only about 4 square miles as compared to Prince George's County, which is a large municipality. That community has been in bankruptcy protection. It's now in receivership, but when we first joined, it was in bankruptcy protection for about 20 years with an annual revenue of $50 million. Since doing this program, setting up the Stormwater Authority and doing a CBP with them, we have raised over $35 million for investment in their combined sewer and GSI and helping with the flooding that has happened in that community. That was a part of why a lot of the industry and housing left and went into the suburbs. It is a prime example of bringing lots of funding and additional dollars because there's a lot of dollars available for community-based programs that really tangibly measure the economic and community benefit that these infrastructure dollars are achieving.
And we do have a couple of other examples if we'd like to go kind of into that, but we feel like those first 2 examples kind of highlight a similar community to ours, and then the opportunity even within a smaller scape. So 4 square miles might be like 1 watershed type of a scenario for us to give you. So we would like to see if there's any questions or comments as it relates to our presentation on the community-based partnership.
So I see Commissioner Johnson. I see Commissioner Kane with a question.
I'm working on it.
Commissioner Johnson.
I'm going to try to get it all out here. Do you all establish goals as related to dollars and or the number of small businesses that will be able to participate within the programs that you all are?
Yeah, so for the first year, what we have organized around is a minimum of 2 mentor proteges. So we document this and report on this, and there will be a public dashboard requirement, and we set up a website for the program. But a minimum of 2 mentor proteges per year and a minimum 20% target class achievement, and that is assessed annually. And then in our budget books, we break down as those budget books before they start and before the Public Works signs those budget books, we have the target metrics defined there.
Mentioned the 20%. What is that measured against? What does that mean?
You're going to be local business enterprises and disadvantaged business enterprises.
Minority women.
WBs and MBs are in that category as well. Yes.
So we're looking at like 2 companies to begin with, be part of that.
To mentor, yes. But we're looking at, in terms of participating in the projects, we're going to be doing outreach to all the community and try to figure out what your capacity here is in this marketplace.
So right. When you say reaching out to the community, are we talking about the community of small businesses? Or
yes, the business community, the small business and the minority business community. Typically, we look at all the different entities that support small and minority businesses, whether that's National Minorities Development Council, your Department of Transportation, all the folks that certify MBEs, WBs, et cetera. We look at those sources and see what's happening in your county, who are the firms that have the capacity to do the kind of work based on their NAICS codes or the SIC codes that they focus on, whether that's concrete, earthwork, installing pipe, et cetera. And then we talk to them. We have meetings with them to figure out what can you do? What are you bidding? Where are you working? Have you bid any public works projects? Why haven't you bid public works projects? We have to listen to your community first, because we don't know what's happening in terms of why they're not bidding, or if they are bidding, are they losing? Are they getting debriefs? Those kind of things. So we have a very comprehensive approach to your marketplace in terms of how we build the capacity and understand what it is so that we can make those target class goals.
So just to be clear, we're not talking about the community of residents. We're talking about the community.
No, type of small business, minority business community. Yes.
Understands that they're watching this right now. I was thinking residents initially, but I should clarify that. Is there any type of contingency built into your overall model? Case that there are situations that are not fulfilled, whatever reason. Built in some type of contingency mitigate against that.
Well, we haven't done any waivers, if that's what you're asking. Well, we've waived the opportunity for a smaller or minority business that we can't find them, because typically we find them. And the challenge is it may take time to build your capacity in this marketplace, because we don't necessarily know what it is yet, because we haven't started that work, but we will find that, and we will use your local residents and the partners in your community. In Prince George's County, we went to churches, we went to and showed them what we were doing in their neighborhoods and in their community. And everybody has, you probably know a couple of small businesses yourself that might be able to participate. So we want those businesses. We want to know who they are, because those are the businesses that are typically not competing in this kind of work. And it gives them a new capacity as well when you learn this. So we haven't had any contingencies in that sense. We haven't had to, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because when you look at it from historical, it's always funny. We think you got to look back to what the original, how the whole program has evolved over the past 10 years. And Michael Burke's Mentor Protege program was a contingency strategy of incorporating the Mentor Protege program, which we did in year 2 of the first phase of the program, because as we went out and we were developing to meet our metrics in Prince George's County, we realized that we had a lot of capacity that had never worked with government, and they needed some mentorship just to even convince them, and just working with government versus private sector. A lot of people were leaving that county they had a metric of 60% of the residents exported out every day to neighboring counties to work for Marriott or work for other business on landscaping, et cetera. And so we worked with Michael to incorporate a mentor protege. So you have contingencies from strategies. So we developed strategic contingencies to help protect us from not achieving these goals in that way. Again, that goes slow to go fast assessment. And then from a monetary standpoint, our performance fee is forfeited if we don't meet our metrics on each budget book. And that's
For you all, for every dollar that you all are able to obtain, how much of that goes towards the actual companies versus how much is the administration, which I'm assuming goes to you all and other areas? Is there a percentage of the overall contract that goes to you all versus what actually goes to the companies?
Yeah, so our fees are capped, and it's really to pay for our management and our performance fee as any other program manager that you would hire competitively. We just accommodate that. We put some of our fee at risk, a percentage of our fee at risk based on performance metrics, not just time and material.
Not necessarily a percentage of what we're able to obtain.
It's a percentage of what our total fee is. We typically do about 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. A question, but I can't remember. I'm going to defer to Commissioner Thing.
Well, I've already asked for a copy of this because I want to run it by some of the folks that I know. And then we'll have to have a follow-up meeting. This is very interesting. It's needed. And I mean, I don't even know how to act. I'm like, I got 1,000 questions I want to ask you, but I also need to talk to the folks about that. So I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that I want to study more, get all the folks that I know, and then come back and sit down as a separate group to say, where do we start?
Thank you. Thank you, both of you commissioners. Commissioner Ramirez, did I see your hand up with a question? No, okay. I'm gonna oversimplify this, but because it's a issue that we're dealing with, and it starts with the federal government telling the government that we have to do something about the combined sewer overflow. And from there, we have, I don't know, a decade of negotiation, EPA, possibly longer. I don't remember. And that brings us to a signed consent decree between the unified government and the EPA that we will in fact separate storm from sewer. And this is one of the ways that we're going to do that. I'm just making if I'm not tracking, any of you can stop me. But I think so far that's where we are. This is an opportunity within both the consent decree and then the fact that we applied for the water infrastructure funding, which is either a low or no interest loan program to fund some of these projects that we have told the federal government we will do these things. And so through that comes this opportunity for this partnership. Is that basically true so far?
Yeah, so Sarah Schaefer, Public Works, in a nutshell, yes. So what this innovative approach does is, as we all know, Public Works is perfectly capable of putting pipes in ground and building things. But what we don't have the opportunity to do is wrap it into this socioeconomic aspect of understanding what our local community has the opportunity and the experience to commit and to bring back into each one of our projects. So rather than just putting pipes in grounds, our innovative approach is to bring in this, all this opportunity to the community and to the public works projects and programming with community-based partnership.
Would there be an opportunity then, as we move through projects, to hear more regularly from the partners as to these metrics that you've identified that you want to meet? Another, just one more thing, we use a lot of jargon.
We do.
KPIs. I think a lot of people don't know what KPIs are. We also use WIFIA, you know, general public does not know WIFIA. SRF was a jargon that was used. So in general, as we talk about things, I'm guessing these are key performance indicators.
Correct.
Which means these are the tools we're going to use to measure whether we are successful with this program. And not only that, the overall goals of what the EPA has mandated we do as a community. Would that be correct?
Correct.
And then SRF means what?
State revolving fund. So the state revolving fund is another low interest with principal forgiveness opportunity that we've been awarded as well to assist in meeting these goals and metrics that we're mandated to do.
As far as the two examples that you shared, I feel like we might be somewhere in the middle, between the big and the little. So that's kind of nice, you know, to know that we're just sort of that mid-sized community, and I'm really looking forward to what you can bring in the future as far as updates and information. But I agree with you that I think the two examples suffice. I appreciate Commissioner Kane is, you know, going to ask for more information, more meetings. It's a lot to take in. And I just want to make sure that as we talk about it together in a way that helps the community understand why we have to do these things. It's really important that we do them, but part of it is because the federal government has told us, you will do this. And I think the other important piece is that the funding to bring you in is included, if you will, in the budgets that have already been laid out for both the EPA and the loan program. Just want to make sure I'm stating that correctly as well.
Correct. It's a total programming cost to include the CBP.
Okay. So I've said a lot. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of a request. I don't know how much of this request that can be granted. I know the biggest example we've gotten was Prince George's County, this type of partnership. I don't know if in the future, if through Zoom in the next standing committee, we can have representatives from Prince George's County, their staff and community partners to just describe what has happened, how has it helped, what has been the benefits, and maybe what are some, not downfalls, but what things they could have done better so that we can gather more information as we go through this process.
I would be completely open to that, and I think it'd be interesting to hear from members of the community. It might also speak to some of Commissioner Kane's interest in how this is going to play out. This is an information item, and I didn't want to cut your presentation short, but I think that was basically the end of it. So other questions or comments from any member of our committee? Sparks, anyone online with their hand raised?
No hands are raised.
Is there anyone here in person that would like to speak to the item?
Yes.
Please come forward to the microphone, give us your name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Shirley Carter Eichert at 804. Shirley Carter Eichert at 804 South 89th Street. And I'm concerned about all of these people that come in to Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas with these gigantic programs and stuff. And then soon as we get about 6 months into it or something, where everybody has disappeared. If we go by 46 and State and look at the old shopping center that used to be out there, that the people sit right here and told us all about the money, how they were going to do it and everything. And all of a sudden they decide, oh, we don't want this. So it's still sitting out there looking real ugly. And I sometimes think that when we're in here talking, and I'm talking to the commissioners, that we need to ask the community what they want. because this seems like a whole lot of stuff for the community to swallow. And nobody's here but a few people from this community to hear about it. And I really think that we need to have a community meeting from all of the commissioners all at one time to kind of tell the people what you're planning to do. Because, you know, we have to pay taxes. We're part of the city, but we're not getting to say anything on the big projects. And there are a lot of people in the community that know about big projects. I was on the committee when we done a new airport in Denver, Colorado. And you talk about a big committee. That was a lot of work. But it was always taken to the community every 30 days, what was going on. And the community here in Wyandotte County is never told what is going on until something goes wrong.
1 minute remaining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ikerd. Is there another hand, Ms. Wyatt? Is there another one? Come to the microphone, name and city, and 3 minutes, please.
Carolyn Wyatt, Kansas City, Kansas. You say a mentor program for your projects. And I know there's a lot of people looking to be mentored. Now, where you look for them is a whole different ball game. Also, they have a few places around here where they have young people that can be mentored. And even if you can't mentor, you should have on job training. And then when you say minority, you have to look at minority. Women, Afro-Americans, and you have a Spanish, Mexicans. Those are minorities. So when you specify that, we don't have section 3, which we should have section 3. Section 3 would explain you have to have all 3. You have to have Afro-Americans. You leave them out when you say minority, because then you can pick women up, you pick the Mexicans. So when you say minority, section 3 actually will fulfill what you're looking for. So that's something that you have to take in regards to what actually when you talk about minorities. Also, I know you said accountability, and then you also said land bank. Land bank is something where there's a lot of land. Inner city has a lot of land, but everybody overlooks the inner city. That's from 1st Street all the way to 635. But if you go from 7th Street to 1st Street, there's a lot of empty land. So when you say a land bank, that's inner city. But also we're looking for the inner city. You have also Afro-Americans that know how to build, they know how to work. So you got to take in that you have to look for everybody.
1 minute remaining.
And I didn't get everything I wanted to say, but it's always a lot of money. And they bring outsiders in. Look for the insiders. So the money can stay here, not leave here. You know. So I didn't get to say everything. Thank you.
You, Ms. Wyatt. Anyone else from the public want to speak to the item? Okay, and it's an information only item. Sure. Okay, thank you very much. Information only. We really appreciate the presentation, the information, and we look forward to Commissioner Ramirez's suggestion of possibly bringing another one of the communities you've worked with into a meeting, say early into 2024 perhaps. And we look forward to the key performance indicators that you work with. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to come present tonight.
Thank you.
We have one item left on Public Works and Safety, and that is a quarterly report from our Parks and Recreation Department. And we have Director Angel Ferrara here with Ms. Shea to make the presentation, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thanks for having us tonight. We are always excited to come before Commission to talk about exciting things we have going on in Parks and Recreation. Save the best for last. So we promise to keep it somewhat short, but also exciting and fun. We will start off with the Recreation Division with Shea Lockett, Division Manager, going over those slides.
Okay. Parks and Rec, we like to pivot a lot. So hopefully
Pivoting.
your handouts include some of the pictures. We wanted to highlight some of the great work that the Recreation Division has done over the past quarter. We've had a real emphasis on community activities and programming. And one of the pictures in the slide included our program guide. Our program guide is out and available, and that details all of the activities and programs we have in our community centers as well as our parks. We're really proud of our rec division staff because we have really been challenging them. And if you follow us on Facebook or social media, you've seen or even received the UG News, you've seen a lot of the activities that have been going on. And one of them we want to highlight tonight is our Halloween and fall festivals. All of our centers hosted an event either around Halloween activities or fall activities. So we had everything from pumpkin painting, which we had pumpkins donated by Liberty Fruit. We had a craft night at Joe Amayo Community Center. We had fall festivals and trunk or treats at our community centers. And through those events, we reached over 600 participants coming out to each of those events. And then we followed that up with a Thanksgiving Family Fun Day. This was our inaugural event, hosting a Thanksgiving Family Fun Day. We partnered with Applebee's, Hy-Vee, and Lewisburg Cider Mill, and were able to provide a free meal to 120 participants registered for this event. And then the staff even took it a step further and donated out of their own pockets to create Thanksgiving baskets. So a lot of the participants, we had 5 baskets, which included turkeys, all the trimmings, as well as a gift card to Walmart to buy the perishable items. And we were able to raffle those off, as well as having games and activities. So the staff have worked really hard on putting those events together. We do want to highlight that we have several events coming up around the Christmas holiday, and that information is online as well. But our big event that I want to make sure we highlight tonight is our Donuts with Santa event. Last year, this event saw approximately 100 people. We have gifts for kids 12 and under, and they're able to visit Santa as well as receive free donuts, hot chocolate, orange juice, and we have coffee for the parents. It is from 9 to noon on December 9th at Memorial Hall. And there is activities from face painting, balloon artists, as well as obstacle courses and crafts as well. So it's a great day for family fun. So please share that and bring your little ones out to visit Santa. We also have, with our emphasis being on providing more activities and programmings, we also did some updates to our gym floors, which we will talk about in our next slide. And so this one does show, so we have, I'll skip down to number 3.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We have done maintenance to 5 of our community center gym floors. A part of being able to provide quality programming is making sure we are taking care of our infrastructure and our assets that we currently have. So all 5 of community center gym floors, with the exception of Eisenhower, because that gym floor is maintained by the school district, all receive upgrades, which new painting, striping, sanding, waxing, Kensington received a full redo for that gym. That means they tore out all the old wood and are completely replacing that floor, which is something that has been neglected for a few years, and we were able to make these improvements through the community center improvement funds within our budget. And then the last item that I would like to cover is our recreation facility study and our aquatics facility study. We've been advised by county administration's office that we will bring both of these reports back to the commission in early 2024.
Again, not sure why these photos aren't popping up. Hopefully you have them on your handouts. Parks Division has been very busy this year with a number of park improvements. So we'll be walking through a few of those updates and sharing a little bit more information about those. I also do want to note at this time that our department went through an extensive process to fill the park manager position. And after going through that process, we were able to select a candidate, and that candidate is Vincent Bellacci, an internal candidate coming over from Public Works from the street department. He will be joining our Parks and Recreation team as park manager. So just started with us today, and so we are happy to have him on board. So you will likely see him with us in the Parks and Rec team in the near future. So we have been very busy, like I mentioned, in parks with some projects. So just want to go through a few of these updates that we have. So the first update we'll talk about is Eisenhower tennis courts. We did extensive repairs to Eisenhower tennis courts, filling cracks. We did a geotech method approach to fill these cracks at Eisenhower. So you can see in this picture on this slide, looks brand new. With Eisenhower being asphalt courts, this crack repair is pretty frequent, about every 5 to 7 years. This time we took a different approach, hopefully extending the life of this maintenance. So, you might not need to go back and fill cracks probably every 8 to 10. The second project we'll update on is Caw Point Park. We did a total reconstruction of one of the ramps at Caw Point Park this year. This was a capital improvement project, and this project was completed in September of this year. Our third project we are updating on is our Clifton Splash Pad project. This project is made possible through CDBG funding. It's been a few years in the making. I think I reported earlier that we were beginning construction in the fall. Construction has started. We do anticipate this project to be finished before end of year, weather pending. We are very excited to celebrate this though in spring of 2024 so the community can enjoy this new splash pad in our community. The fourth project is pickleball courts. I do believe I saw a few of you out at the ribbon cutting a few weeks ago. So our department did install and complete 4 new pickleball courts at Wyandotte County Lake. These are the first true pickleball courts that we've added in our inventory for the Parks and Rec department, and also I believe in the county. So this was a very exciting day. It was great weather. We saw a lot of people out there playing pickleball. I think we got some new fans. So we're really excited to have completed this project, and pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States. We can't keep up with it, but we're going to try. So that was an exciting project to complete before end of year. Moving on to a few other updates for projects. Of course, we have our ongoing Boston Daniels project. Actually on this slide, that is a picture of the most likely final design of the park project. So we are working on final approvals for this park project. We've been working very closely with the Boston Daniels Corporation, as well as the community, and did a series of community engagement sessions throughout the summer to get feedback to come to this final design. Some things I do want to note that you will be seeing in construction of 2024 is that we will be installing a new shelter to this park. The current park does not have an existing shelter, so that will be a new feature. We will be shifting the playground up towards the west side of the park, and also adding rubber surfacing. We'll be improving all of the concrete sidewalks within the park, and also have some ADA access towards the front of the park, and then also doing some beautification as well. So this is a very large project in the amount of almost $1 million being invested right here at Boston Daniels. And last but not least, there will be a commemorative structure remembering Boston Daniels and everything that he stood for our community. Again, the Boston Daniels Corporation has been monumental in this project. They've been great to work with. And also we have some other community partners lined up to support a few of these projects, specifically the monument within the park. So we are anticipating a spring 2024 construction. Next item is also a capital improvement project for 2023 is trail maintenance. Parkwood, Wellborn, and Thompson Trails received an overlay. Parkwood and Thompson Park have been completed, and Wellborn is partially completed. Weather pending, we should see that project completed here in the next 2 weeks. The next project we'll touch on is the rock wall at Wyandotte County Lake. So we are contracting with Terracon on this project. And so they are doing an assessment to determine what the cause of failure was, whether that was local, so just the wall failing on its own, or if it was global, which is more of the movement of the slope and the soil and the dirt work around there. So this data is important to develop an understanding of the subsurface and the soil and also the bedrock profile so that moving forward, we can use that information to design the right repair moving forward. So we are looking forward to that, having that information to help us make some decisions moving forward. The next project we'll discuss is Clam Park Trail. We did apply for this funding, I believe almost 2 years ago, and received HUD funding through earmarks for this project. We are just waiting on final approvals from HUD to get those access to those funds. The project is shovel ready. As soon as we get those funds, it's ready to go out to bid and begin that process. So I'm told any day now we should get approval for those funds. We do have some other funding that we're working with HUD through, and we have been told that it's been a delayed process. The federal government's just been trying to navigate themselves how to distribute and work through the paperwork. So looking forward to working through that project as well. Few more updates we have is also St. Margaret's Trail, which you can see in this picture here. This is also a capital improvement project for 2023. So you can see the layout of the trail at St. Margaret's there at the upper level of the park. This is construction of a 5-foot wide walking loop, which will be approximately 0.33 miles. If you've drove by the park, this has started. So they're out there right now trying to get the concrete done. And then when weather permits in the spring, they will be laying a rubber surfacing on the trail, which is a little bit easier for users. This is an exciting project. I know that we worked over the past few years with community groups to try to get grant funding for this project. We were fortunate to be able to fund this through the budget process with some of the funding that we received through the incremental funds to the Parks and Rec Department. So we know the community is very excited to see this one take off. Next project update is for Piper Park. So we were allocated funding for this project, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So that funding is still in the Parks and Recreation Department's budget. Currently, we are having conversations with community partners, trying to determine some partnerships to see if we can identify a better piece of land or a better site to put some amenities and to create a park for the residents out in Piper. So conversations are ongoing with this project. The next project we'll talk about is Quindaro Sport Court project. This is also a 2023 capital improvement project. We spent a few months over the summer doing some community engagement to really determine what the community wanted to see as the improvements for this court. Currently, the court is some pretty dilapidated tennis courts. So we surveyed the community and gave them 4 options of sport courts: tennis, pickleball, futsal, and basketball. The results came back and the community spoke, and they really favored wanting to see brand new basketball courts, and then pickleball also ranked second. So we are working to design most likely 2 regulation size basketball courts at this location, and then also laying some pickleball stripes on top for multi-use. And so that way you can get out there and, have your option between two sports. So looking forward to get that project off and going as well. And lastly, I'll talk about our annual shelter program. So this funding has been redirected to annual shelter program. Historically, it was our annual restroom replacement program funding that we received. Through the CARES Act and ARPA dollars, we were able in the last few years to kind of get ahead on replacing our restrooms. We've done about 10 restroom replacements in the past 2 to 3 years. And so we felt pretty comfortable on getting ahead on some of those items and decided it was best to refocus these dollars to our shelters. So we are spending these dollars over the next few years to repair our shelters. So this winter, we've kicked that off with Shelter 10 at Wyandotte County Lake. It will be receiving almost a full gut. They are out there right now, tearing out the concrete, replacing the roof, doing some masonry work, and then also some electrical work as well. So we have a priority list of shelters for all our parks, and starting with the most immediate need that we'll be working through over the next few years. Lastly, this is just a map to kind of show our projects at a glance and where they're happening around the city. Many of these projects we talked about tonight, or we've talked about this year, just to kind of show all the work that the Parks and Rec is doing, whether that's deferred maintenance or park improvements, trail work, sport courts, and so on. So just to kind of give a nice little visual of the work that's being done. Lastly, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that our Holiday Light and Magic show at Wyandotte County Lake kicked off last Thursday. So again, this is the partnership we have with Jolt Lighting. They bring the light show out to Wyandotte County Park, not Lake, Wyandotte County Park. And so it's a drive-through light show for families. Tickets start, I believe, at about $25 a car. What's really great about this program is a portion of those proceeds does come back to the Wyandotte County Parks Foundation. And we all know that those funds then come back to our park projects. So if you haven't been out there, or if you have, check it out again. They mix it up. They've got different displays to see this year. And it's always a good time for families, especially if, you want to stay warm and not have to get out. And that concludes our presentation, and we will stand for any questions.
Not a question, just a comment. The pickleball courts look great. They're the nicest ones I've ever seen. So that's nice. You guys did a great job out there. And talks about the park out west. There's no park west of 435. And there's $250,000 set aside. And I think we're going to have to ask for double or triple that to work with the rest of the community to build what we want to build out there. We've already got plans. Just need location, and we need more money. Appreciate the work that you've done so far and look forward to the work you're going to do again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'm really excited about the project at Austin Daniels Park. It's not in District 4, but it's an area that I've frequented many times and it's very close to District 4. So I'm really excited to be able to see the fruition of that park. A lot of thought and consideration has gone into that. I'm concerned about the funding for Clam Park. I mean, it's been approved. We're waiting for final approval from the federal government. Is there any type of angst with regard to not being able to receive those funds? I guess the question is the foregone conclusion that those monies will come in, or it's just, is there a possibility that somehow or another, maybe it's been 2 years when you mentioned Clam Park, I'm like, well, that's years since we first talked about that. So can you speak to that process a little bit more?
Sure, yeah. So it has been a little bit to navigate. I will say that our contact with HUD has full confidence that it'll get passed. It's just taken some time to get paperwork through. I know that the UG has a few other projects also in this first pass of HUD earmark funding. And so we did send paperwork out the first time. They sent it back. We kind of needed some signatures on a few pages. So we've been playing that back and forth game. But we did get the paperwork in officially, just waiting on final approvals. They did share with us that they obviously have a high volume of applications and paperwork that they're vetting through. And since it had been 10+ years since they had this program where they issue the community earmark funding, they're just kind of rusty, I think, on the process. So I am confident that we will get the funds. And then when we do work through, which we are starting the process now for the $1 million that we received for park improvements, that it should go a little bit more smoothly. And we also know what to expect and have started proactively getting some of those items done on our end. So learning process.
So I'll wait with bated breath for that to happen. So you're moving from adding restrooms to now improving shelters within the community. Is that correct? Had a couple of thoughts on that. One, do we have any sense of what the shelter, which shelters will be improved beyond the one that you're working on right now? Can you tell us any more of any other areas, any other shelter houses that will be improved?
Yeah, so our short list, and I've got that priority list sitting at my office. So we are starting with 5 shelters out at Wyandotte County Lake. Those do get rented the most, and so they see the most use. So they are deteriorated pretty bad. So we are starting with shelters out there and working our way through. Most likely the lake shelters will shift to Bonner Springs, Wyandotte County Park as well, and take a look at those shelters. We know that there are a few shelters in Pearson, at Pearson Park, that are probably in the next 2 to 3 years, and then taking a look at all of our other park shelters.
You know, I got a champion, not, Northeast. I don't know how many shelter houses we have in Northeast, but we do have some, certainly at Clam Park, certainly at Parkwood, and there are a few others that my mind can't grasp at this particular time. Kensington, thank you. Edgerton, yes, Edgerton, thank you so much. And I know that our representatives on the park board will make sure that we get those. And the thing that I'm concerned with is the same thing that was concerned with regard to the restrooms, and that is vandalism. And when you talk about the amount of money that's going into those parks, it is an absolute tragedy and shame that people in the community would come and then try to vandal and be successful in vandalizing them. So is there any thought with regard to any type of prevention of that, maybe working with the sheriff's department? I don't know, I'm just talking out loud here. But it's just a real shame that we would put that kind of money into the ground only to see those structures desecrated. So can you speak to that a little bit more?
Sure. And so the repairs that we're looking to do to the shelters is really just for storing what's already there. We're not looking to install a new structure unless for whatever reason that makes sense. Right now, we're not really seeing that. So we are looking to just restore, especially, the ones that are out west, kind of keeping the historic aesthetic of those shelters as much as we can. So we're hoping that at least as far as vandalism for the shelters, it's not increased. We're not providing more of a canvas for that type of activity to take place. And I will say we are working with the Sheriff's Department, KCKPD, and DOTS as well. We did receive that funding through ARPA for the camera project. So that project we have been actively working on over the last several months to implement. We are starting with 10 of what we believe are high priority parks. I don't have that list in front of me, but our community centers are included on that list. And so we are hopeful that there may be some solutions there and provide more visibility, safety, and security in our parks and facilities.
I'll jump on board with Commissioner Kane. I'm not anywhere near Piper, but I'm Piper for about half of his tenure here. And so I would jump on that and say we need to get that thing done, whatever it needs. That as well. With that, I will rest here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you say again, I briefly stepped out when you mentioned about the assessments. Can you mention what was that announcement?
Yeah, so we have the recreation feasibility assessment and also the Parkwood Pool Aquatics Facility Assessment, both studies that were done this year. And so we do have for the Recreation Center feasibility study that completed report. And then for the Parkwood Pool, we have the preliminary report for that. And so after consulting with county administration, we do look to bring both of those items back to commission in early 2024.
Good. I'm very happy about that. Very excited because I know especially the feasibility study for the parks facilities. That was something that came out of my subcommittee during the infrastructure committee process that we went through. And I know especially, and then it came into the aquatics study. And I remember as a subcommittee, we've seen the report, we've seen some of the things that are being recommended, and I think it's really good information that we need.
Yes.
Information that we haven't had before that we're going to be able to make better, more strategic investments around our community and throughout all our community and make sure that it's fair and equal. So I'm very happy that we're bringing that back to the commission and because I'm excited. It was good information. Just again, as always, thank you for all that you do. Those together have a special place in my heart. And so I thank you for all that you do every day for our youth, for our families. It's not easy work, but it's good work. And I will continue to advocate and continue to fight for our parks and recreation.
Thank you. Thank you.
I might, excuse me, I might just add, the commission also allocated funding in the 2024 budget for parks to implement a asset management or asset tracking system, which will give them a degree of granularity in determining what is the condition of shelters, what is the condition of swing sets, what is the condition of all those kind of assets that exist within a park system that had before, the ability to take that information, much like the facilities assessment, and then make recommendations about those sort of capital expenditures and maintenance expenditures to make sure that we're keeping up and catching up on in park system.
I remember that, and I'm very, very happy and excited that our Parks Department is going to have that.
Yes.
As it's been a big help for our Public Works Department to have an asset manager and asset just program. And especially with our parks and how many assets we do have out there, to have it all organized and centralized. It's going to be a big improvement. So I'm very excited.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments from the committee or any hands raised online?
No hands are raised.
Is there anyone here in person that would like to speak to the quarterly parks update? I see no one stepping forward, so thank you both very much for the good report. I do always appreciate having you come because it's Parks and Recreation, I think, is such a big quality of life issue for our community. So it's really nice, not only all that you're doing, but that we get the updates and that way we can see all that's happening and all that's coming. And that is the last item on our agenda tonight. Before I allow for a motion to adjourn this meeting, I would be remiss if I did not mention that it's the last Public Works and Safety meeting for Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Markley. And your absence from here on will be felt. For Commissioner Johnson, it's 8 years of these meetings, which is a long time. For Commissioner Markley, I believe it's 12 years of these meetings, which is a long time. That's a lot of reading, a lot of contemplating, a lot of understanding, a lot of discussion. It's hard to describe the work and the effort that goes into being a prepared and active member of these standing committees. So I just want to say thank you to both of you. We still have another committee meeting tonight, so I'll leave my remarks there. But a sincere thank you to the both of you. As always, a thank you to BPU Board Member Groneman for being an active participant of Public Works and Safety. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, Ramirez.
Johnson second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call, Groneman, Kane, Markley. Aye. Johnson,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. Our meeting's adjourned and we will hand it to Commissioner Markley for Administration and Human Services.
It is my last standing committee rodeo, at least. All right, before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. When speaking, be sure and speak directly into your microphone so all comments are heard and the record of the meeting is accurate. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public will also have the opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom or from the fifth floor conference room of the municipal office building. I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call, Kane, Johnson.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Bynum. Here. Markley.
Here. There are no revisions to tonight's agenda and there are no minutes to approve. So that takes us straight to item number 1, adoption of a resolution authorizing the use of $240,000 from ARPA funds set aside for local match grants. Should that have been, there's a 0 missing in here, so you should probably verify the amount. Either a 0 missing or a comma.
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time today. In March of this year, this committee and subsequently the Board of Commissioners approved a list of projects, which I included in your package, that the interdepartmental working group was to pursue grants for. I'm here tonight to report that we received a $1.2 million grant for a trail system that will connect where Jersey Creek Trail ends at basically 5th and Parallel across to 3rd Street and down 3rd Street to connect to both the Caw Point Trail as well as the American Riverfront Heritage Trail, which takes you across I-70 into Kansas City, Missouri. And soon, when it's completed, will connect on the other side of the Caw River to the Levee Betterments Trail down to the Rock Island Bridge across the river and around the Oxbow of Armourdale all the way to the Procter & Gamble trailhead. So this is a critical gap in the existing trail system within Kansas City, Kansas, that will connect us to 2 regional trails that will get us out of our jurisdiction and into the regional trail system. What we are talking about is the preferred trail facility type, which is an off-street trail, i.e. a 10-foot wide sidewalk. A sidewalk that does not currently exist on that stretch of 3rd Street and over across to 5th. So this grant requires a 20% local match. So 20% of $1.2 million is $240,000 that we are requesting from the ARPA set aside that the Board of Commissioners used for these very purposes. We would also request that this be fast tracked to Thursday.
And it does say 240,000 in the actual agenda. My special highlighted agenda was missing a zero, so had me there for a minute. Anybody from the committee have questions or comments?
Johnson moved to approve.
Madam Clerk, anybody with hands raised virtually?
No hands are raised.
Anyone here in the room want to make comment on this item? Go ahead, Ms. White.
Missed a little bit when I stepped out for a minute.
State your name and city of residence, and you know the drill. 3 minutes.
Earl Wyatt, Kansas City, Kansas. I left out for a minute to talk to Jeff, and I think I missed something. This trail you're talking about, is that removing the concrete from Jersey? That's not that, that's something different?
Something different, yeah.
Okay, so I missed part of that.
So this is the Northeast Heritage Trail.
Okay,
I was gonna, yeah,
Give it again.
if you want to give a brief one, or if you just want to group up after this, either way.
let's highlight just a little bit.
Sure. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design again. So the request is for the local match for a $1.2 million grant that will extend Jersey Creek Trail from where it currently ends at around 5th and Parallel across to 3rd Street, down 3rd Street to connect to the existing trail systems that take you into Caw Point, across the bridge to the American Riverfront Heritage Trail, and then subsequently and soon to connect to our own Levee Betterments Trail, again, on the other side of the Caw River there. This is a large gap in our internal trail system that will connect us to the largest employment center in our region through bike and ped.
And this is new trail.
This is new trail segment. It's a little less, it's approximately a mile, and it will include both the design and construction budget for the project.
On this trail, has it been taken to the community?
The Northeast KCK Heritage Trail has been a policy of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, since its inclusion in the Northeast Area Plan in 2018. It was subsequently developed its own planning process that was adopted in 2021, an extensive planning process that was in coordination with the update or creation for the first time of our countywide mobility strategy. That was the Northeast KCK Heritage Trail Plan. Again, we took this and other grants through the approval process to seek them as we are required. And all throughout the way, we have had multiple contacts with our community members and stakeholders.
I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but I think that we need more information on that to actually like what you're actually proposing. Because normally I go to a lot of meetings and I've heard about a lot of different trails, but I don't think I heard about that trail. So I think it probably, you say from 3rd Street all the way to 10th Street, there's probably 4 or 5 neighborhood groups in that area. And enough people in there, I think that if you had a meeting where you could actually explain what you're talking about, show the people what you're saying, not only talking, but, showing the process you're talking about.
We will continue to have public meetings as we pursue the design and construction project. Again, there have been countless numbers of public meetings about the Northeast KCK Heritage Trail dating back to 2018.
Well, but they may have been, but you may not have contacted the community. You may have contacted a certain group of people, like maybe groundwork, but if you haven't contacted the community, you really haven't contacted the people in the community. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Wyatt. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call. Kane. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Did we include the fast track in the motion?
Who's in?
It was in there. the motion was so far before the vote. I wasn't sure. Do we need to go through it? We got it covered?
He requested it when he was sitting, so the motion, I believe, was on his request. So long as everybody's operating under that understanding, it should be good.
Thank you. All right. Item number 2, also the last item on our agenda. This is regarding the local tobacco retail license. We heard this item last month in standing committee. It is back before us tonight really solely because we were short on members last month, and we wanted to make sure that we had a larger group here for that discussion. Most of this committee has heard this before, either last month or individually. So it's up to this committee whether we want to hear the presentation again or whether we just want to ask questions and move from there. Preference?
I don't need a presentation.
Are there questions or comments based on the presentation or the information that we have heard in separate meetings with this group? Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you, Chair Markley. I just want to step back to last month when we had an extensive conversation about the ordinance and brought up, I think, all of the pros and cons, if you will, and particularly the pros of adopting such an ordinance. Want to thank the members of the health department team and also the community partners that helped us bring something forward. And I would propose a motion to adopt the tobacco retailer's license. So I will make that as a motion.
I'll second it.
I do have a motion in a second. Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Commissioner Markley. I wasn't here for the first time that it was presented. I know this in I've done my research and whatnot. So I don't need the presentation. Remind me how many other communities within our state have a tobacco retail license?
Sure, there are 3 other communities. It's Wichita, Newton, and Lawrence. However, Newton repealed theirs about a month or 2 ago. We don't have a lot of details on that. Those are the communities.
Okay. The reason I ask, and I support this, but the one big reservation I have is the state. We did safe and welcoming, and it was taken away from us within a day. And Lawrence, Roland Park had a similar ordinance already in place. But of course, when Wyandotte County implemented it, they took it away for everybody. So that is the reservation I have with this. Because we would be one of the biggest communities in the state to first to adopt this type of ordinance. And, you know, our state loves to preempt our local governments from being able for us to do our job. So I will support it, but I do have the big reservation of the state coming in and saying, no, you cannot do that, and pass a legislation banning local governments from doing this. It's a real threat. It's anything, honestly, it's the very first thought that comes to mind anytime anything of us introduce of the state wanting to come in and tell us how to do our jobs.
That's a very fair concern, given the history with the state. I would say the safe and welcoming ordinance was, I think there were some political issues and still are in the state around that issue, nationally and at the state as well, that I think, and I believe that was an election year as well. And so there was a lot of attention on that, and the issue of tobacco control, and please let me know if I'm off base on this. I haven't heard that it has the same kind of valence at the state level that this does, that it has the same amount of intention on it, or that the politics are similar to that. So I'm not saying that that's not an issue at all, because of course it can be. But I think the political kind of, tallest blade of grass or tallest tree isn't quite as high on this as on that issue. In my opinion, which I'm policy manager at the public health department. So, yeah.
I would normally agree with you. But unfortunately, and in my mind, I believe we don't have a fair attorney general. And it's been known and stated that our attorney general doesn't really care for Wyandotte County. And so that's where I say normally I would understand and agree with you. But like I said, I will continue, I still support it. But that's the biggest reservation that I have.
I would like to also note, obviously, we haven't talked to every elected official in the state, but we have talked to the state tobacco department. I forget what that department's called. And they do support us doing this locally as well. So the state agency that's in charge of this does support us doing this. And I hope that helps.
Clerk, is there anyone attending virtually who would like to comment on this item?
No hands are raised.
Anyone here in person who would like to comment on this item? Ms. Wyatt?
It's like I'm commenting on everything, but I'm interested in young people.
Go ahead and give us your name and
Oh, I'm sorry, Carolyn
name
White,
drill.
Kansas City. I didn't hear the beginning of the tobacco ordinance. I kind of sponsored, I'm going on with a tobacco campaign against the different cigarettes. They're around every school around here. So it's like they're targeting young people. And I don't know if you have kids. I don't have any, but I have nieces and nephews. But I'm saying they're targeting the young people and they make them so pretty. You know, when you go in there, they're selling more paraphernalia than they're selling gas. And then, so what I'm saying, I'm not sure what the artisans, what you're trying to get through. Is this where could you explain that to me exactly for a minute about the ordinance that you're posing?
Somebody want to summarize?
Uzo, do you want to briefly describe the ordinance?
Sure. Uza Makari, Wyandotte County Health Department. So what this ordinance will entail, it's like a buildup from the Tobacco 21 that was implemented a few years ago, which raised the legal age of sale from 18 to 21 years old. It will ensure that a public health staff member conducts compliance checks with a youth from Wyandotte County to see which tobacco retail holder is actually complying to the state and also the local law of selling to underage youth. And assuming if that they don't comply, then they would be fined or suspended depending on the level of offenses that they have. So first, second, third offense, they will be fined higher or suspended higher. And it can even go up to a 2-year suspension, depending on how often they're caught. It will also entail that the tobacco retail license will be raised. Currently, I believe it's like $25, but it'll be raised up to $600. That's what we're proposing. And it will just ensure more accountability and also funding for the full-time employee from the health department to actually carry out these compliance checks.
I just want to make sure. What I'm saying is, sometimes I go around to different service stations, see who's going there to buy this paraphernalia, who's buying that. And I know there's one place off of 10th and if you go out 10th Street, there's a little shopping thing right there to the right-hand side. I think that's, I know they sell to young people. I think probably the one maybe out on 18th and Parallel. So there's certain ones I know do sell for young people. So you're being too kind to those people because they're running people's young people's lungs and everything. So you're being too kind. If they're selling to young people, and most of those people aren't from here, so what do they care about our young people? What do they care about people at all? Because they're not from here. So to me, you're being too light. If they're selling to young people, they need to say, we're taking their license. You got to make an example out of somebody. Because I know they sell to young people. And they're around the schools, around every school. You go check out by one out on 18th Street. Whatever that school is out there. No, 18th Street going out toward
Bruce.
no, the other way, going out toward Road. The school out there,
The board.
out Road. Harmon.
Harmon.
School right there, I mean, school there, and you go in there and it looks so pretty, all of this stuff up there, kids to buy the pipes, all that. So somebody need to be going checking all these service stations and let them know if they get caught selling, their license be taken. You gotta be blunt with this because they're making all this money and they're killing our kids and even adults who should have more sense. They're smoking with the kids, so it's like, you gotta be more stern with that. You over the health department, that's about health. So they need to know, send them a letter, whatever, your license would be taken. That way that stuff would probably start. I've called the health department before because I wanted to get the stuff moved out of the service stations. They moved it out one time, then they moved that stuff out of the service stations. It's no good for nobody. So I hope everybody's listening. If you got kids or grandkids, if you don't stop this, your grandkids or their grandkids, they're gonna all be on this stuff. So thank you.
Anyone else in the public here and present want to speak on this item? Come up to the podium, give us your name and city of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Courtney Iderish, Lenexa, Kansas. I teach at J.C. Harmon High School. So when Ms. White was talking about what she believes is her experience in our building, I will tell you that tobacco products are highly accessible to our kids. I witness firsthand every day the effect that it has on them, where we have unresolved issues that are happening with the kids in our community that are being treated with tobacco products. And then it becomes an addiction that is a problem where they are missing class. They need to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes or every hour to treat this. And so I appreciate you letting me speak again. I was here last month. But just wanted to reiterate what we said. These are this is one way that we are helping curtail the access to our students and hopefully making the community better and keeping it out of the hands of our young people. Thank you.
Commissioner King?
I wasn't gonna say nothing, but now I guess I will. The last speaker is a elected person in another municipality and they haven't done anything with it. So if you're gonna bring something here, you should have done it in your place and said, this is what I did in my place, not come over here and say, here's what I did. Or here's what I want you to do, although I haven't done it in my area, but I want you to do it over here. So when somebody says something, and the fact that there's only 3 municipalities, and when it was presented to me, there was a hell of a lot more. Then I got yelled at because, you'll be the only commissioner voting against it. And as I've told you all before, my mom died of smoke-related cancer. But if you can serve this country, you ought to be able to drink beer and smoke a cigarette. And that's my opinion. I didn't interrupt anybody else and nobody's going to interrupt me.
Anyone else wish to comment on this item? All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane. Johnson.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Vote is 4-1, the motion carried.
Thank you. Thanks very much. That concludes our meeting this evening. I will thank you all for many years of attention and patience, as this is my last meeting leading this committee, and I have enjoyed it. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Man, I'm not ready. I just want to thank both you guys and Brian. It takes a lot out of our lives to come do this. the sacrifice away from family. And as I said the other day, when I got home at 1:45, Diane was standing there saying, we don't need the money. Because people have no idea the stress that it puts on us, puts on our kids, puts on our siblings, because we voted this way or we voted that way. So I just want you to know I appreciate all three of you.
Thanks. Christian?
Ditto everything Commissioner Kane said, since I've been here, you two have as well. And since these 4 years, hearing the debates we have and the questions you've asked has made me a better commissioner. And so I thank you for that. And I thank you for your commitment to your districts, for Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas. And I wish you all the best.
Thanks very much.
I will say that it's been a pleasure working with everyone. I've learned a lot. It has been challenging, but I feel like it's been very fulfilling. And it's something that will enhance my life. I don't know where the next step is, but whatever it is, this experience, working with you all, understanding that teamwork makes the dream work, and how to be able to work with different lines of thoughts on some very challenging topics has been a great challenge, but it's been a great reward. And so I want to say thank you to all of you all as my peers, as my colleagues, and as my friends. And I think that we'll continue to see each other at different events, and looking forward to the next phase of life. Thank you.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn before I cry.
I'll be happy to make my final motion for this standing committee. Johnson so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane. Johnson.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. We
Motion
are adjourned.
carries.
Thanks so much.